Welcome to the Rewild You podcast. I'm Hannah Ray, a coach, writer, and lover of wild places. On this podcast, I chat with brave, brilliant, creative, and inspiring humans about the turning points and challenges that have shaped them. We go straight for the substance, the kinds of conversations you might have with me on a mountain hike or over a long cup of coffee. If you're drawn to meaningful conversation, practical wisdom, and a hearty dose of adventure, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello, Cecile, and welcome to the podcast. I'm so stoked to have a chat with you, and just thank you so much for being so eager to have a chat and for being here and sharing your story and your wisdom with us.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
To kick us off, can you share with us a little bit about who you are, what you do? How would you describe yourself?
Where to start? There's a lot to say. So, I'm Cecile. My accent, for those who may be wondering, is French. So I don't sound typically French, but I've got a bit of a mongrel accent because I've been living in New Zealand for almost 20 years. I came in 2005. Followed my then boyfriend, who was a Kiwi. I am 41 years old. I live in Christchurch with 2 boys. I am a solo mama, and we'll learn all about this and the reason why. I could say a lot of things about me, but what people say about me is that I've got quite a contagious energy, which is flattering. It's quite nice. But I guess I have positive vibes, and I am very authentic, which means I can also be very vulnerable. And that's a key. Authenticity is one of my key values. So I try my best to live a balanced life that's aligned with my values. But I'm really, really keen on connection, meaningful human connections. And I'm very interested in growth, spiritual and else. And then what else? I have a lot of passions. It's a mix of creativity and social outgoing activities. I love nature and I love people.
I think that sums you up. I mean, I don't know you that well yet, but I think that sums you up so well. And definitely, I'm already been feeling the contagious energy. So for our audience watching and listening, I'm sure that they'll pick up on that.
Hopefully.
And it's amazing. I mean, we will get into it, that you continue to have this positivity and that energy and still going out there, putting yourself out there and living a wholesome, full life, kind of in the face of or despite everything that you've been through.
Yeah, I mean, it's, a lot of people have told me, and I think the first time we had a chat, I told you, sometimes I can just be telling all about the horrible things and feelings I've gone through. And people say, oh, wow, you're inspiring me. And I'm like, what do you mean? I've just been telling you how hard I've had it and how hard I've been feeling. But yeah, so there's hope there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And hope is a big part of why we are having this conversation today, and a big part of why I started the podcast. So
that's beautiful. If we can give some hope, let's do it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So I wonder if you can share as much or as little as you like about the loss of yours that we're talking about today. Who was your person? How did you meet? And then a wee bit about your journey and your relationship, and then what happened.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting. What comes to mind when you say who's my person? Of course, I have the person, but I think we also have throughout our lives and as we age, many of those people, who pass and who live life as we know it. But my person is David. And he's the person I met back in the days who dragged me to New Zealand. And so I still refer to him as my husband. I am starting to call him, when in conversations with my late husband, to kind of pass on the message, because people sometimes get a bit confused. He passed away 5.5 years ago. And it was a very sudden death because he said goodbye and see you later. I'll be back at 4:30 at the end of school to pick up the kids, and he never turned up. So it's just incredible. And I think something that's been helping me is that, I don't have any taboo about it. I can speak about it, and I can give as many details as the person I'm talking to needs. And I was going to say to understand, but who can understand? This is something we can't understand, and we'll never be able to. But yeah, I don't know. What else do you want to learn or hear about Dave?
Do you have because I think when we have these conversations about grief and loss, it's very easy, and even in just our, kind of our internal thought processes, is it can be so easy to get consumed. I'm going to say stuck, but like the grief and thinking about what we've lost is consuming. And in doing that, we not forget, but we kind of suppress all those amazing, incredible memories and times that we had together. And I'm 100% guilty of doing this. So I wonder if there's a favorite memory you have, like a funny anecdote of you two together, and what, something that really exemplifies what you love about Dave.
I do. I have a few, actually. So Dave, it's interesting how you say sometimes you kind of suppress these memories, but we also have a tendency to put that person on a pedestal and then to kind of make them better, greater than they were. I don't do that. He was really imperfect, but he was remarkable. Like he was a really, truly witty, fun, kind man, and he touched a lot of lives, which is also something interesting that I may share later in my coping with grief. But he was really humble, but he also lived life to the fullest, which is now become a motto for my life. With all the good, the bad, and the ugly, it doesn't mean like be happy all the time, but it's just like leave it. And he was really authentic himself. So the very first time I met him, I'm French, I'm studying in Dublin, in Ireland. We're in a pub. He's on the piss with his mates. And then he saw me, and for some unknown reason, I was finding it quite funny because they were loud and interesting, rowdy boys. And he came up to me, and the first sentence he's ever said to me is, "Hey, what part of America are you from?" And that was hilarious because I was like, "What are you talking about?" And it was a Kiwi talking to a French girl in Dublin, Ireland. So that is one of those kind of key memories that I will forever cherish. And then there's another one, and also a very kind of solemn moment, which was our wedding. 11 years later, we took our time to get married, and, it was a conscious, deliberated choice to do that later in our life. But at the moment of his vows, I had no idea what it was going to say. It was about, let's just make our own vows for each other. And he started his vows saying, after 3 weeks of dating this girl, when she saw the pimple on my nose and needed to squeeze it, I knew she was the girl for me. And I loved it because it was a wedding. And he said that, and it just summed it up so well, because it's something he'd never shared with me, but it was so true. And I think it was that moment where, for him, it was a true moment, saying, oh my God, that person is that person. And yeah, so it's pretty cool. And, there's many, but these are two of probably my favorite ones.
It's so precious. I love that.
Pretty cool. Great vows.
Yeah. So, having that memory of Dave, and then you mentioned about, he went out for the day. What was he doing? And I mean, we don't need to go into all the...
I think it's important.
Hard details, but I think maybe focusing on your experience when receiving the news, what happened in the next 24, 48 hours, what was that, that crunch time for you and your family?
Yeah, no, I think it's really important to set the scene here and explain the context, because every life is different, everybody is different, and every deaths are different. So we we decided as a family with our 2 children, Charlie and Oliver, to go and live in France to reconnect with my culture, with my family, with the language for the boys and for Dave as well. And we both decided to go and live in the Alps because we had this passion for the outdoors and wanted to go skiing. And Dave started skiing in New Zealand when he was 30 because he always wanted to go ski touring. It's a beautiful way of exploring nature and to see those mountains in the winter. And it's, exercising as well as just exploring, which is just beautiful. And we were in France and he was really getting into ski touring. And there was going to be a beautiful weather patch before a more stormy front coming. And that day he said, hey, I'm going to go. You go see that surgeon because I had ruptured my anterior cruciate ligament, my ACL, the worst thing you can do when you're a skier. And I was going to go and seek a second opinion somewhere. And Dave, being a bloke, said, you do your thing. I'm just going to do mine. And it's the perfect opportunity. And so he told me, we discussed about where he would be going on the map, because we would always do, and what time he would be likely to be arriving where he wanted to go. And he left that morning, probably at 4 a.m. and parked at what we call at the end of the valley, which is where the road leads, and then you can just take off. And at probably 9 or 9:30 that morning, he had already reached that destination. So he called me and he said, hey, I'm already there. I'm going to keep going because it's just stunning. It was a bluebird day, stunning, beautiful day. And he was just loving it. And he said, I'm just going to go that way. And then I don't know whether I'll just contour the mountain or I'll just take up to reach, because there's a big ski resort next to us. So he could be reaching some lifts and taking the resort back down, which is an easier way. So that was it. And I just said, sure. I took off to drive to the surgeon's appointment and knew that I was not going to be hearing for him for a while, but it was the plan that he would come to school, be back at about 4 at the latest. And he didn't come back. And me being kind of trusting that he knows what he's doing, I just tried to not worry too much and say, oh, maybe he's just taken a longer route, or he may be even hitchhiking back, and it's a 2-hour drive to come back from the back of that mountain. But he didn't come back, and I was just not sure. And in those moments, you don't want to feel like you're, wearing what, like you don't want to be like exaggerating. And I was talking to a friend saying it's a bit weird, and he said, "No, call the police, like call." So there's in France, there's 2 types of police. There's police and there's the gendarmerie, which is a separate entity, which is part of the military, and they are really trained to work into the mountainous high country area. And I called them, and it was, and they took me seriously, which was good, but you feel a little bit weird. But so it's not like someone called me and said there's been an accident. It was more like, okay, where is Dave? Dave's not back. Where is Dave? And I was like, no, it's okay. It's all, and really trying to make things, just trying to stay calm and positive, and knowing the type of person he's not, a risky, like he doesn't take irresponsible risks and things like this. So, but no news. And that was probably the longest night in my life, because we didn't have any news and we didn't know, but I was hopeful that he would be waiting for the next morning to catch the lift to get back to the resort. And so I had that hope that I was clinging on to. And on the Saturday morning, of course, the resort, everybody was aware, let us know as soon as he scans his pass. But he never scanned his pass, and he never turned up at the resort. And the search went on because we didn't know where he was. So I had some ideas, but we didn't know. And that was for me, the hardest thing is that wait. And so you say, what are the next 24 hours and 48 hours? Is it, when does grief start? Does it start when the person's not being found, or when you have confirmation that they're dead, And I think it was actually harder not knowing and that hope, but it was surreal at the same time. You just kind of get into that mode. It's like in the movies. It's like, we had the helicopter and the sniffer dogs, and we had the research parties, and then some of my friends gathered and said, okay, we can go. And then the police captain says, well, be careful. We don't want any other accident on top of an accident. blah, 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 blah. And then like, oh, so yeah. So that was a bit of it was not a bit, it was a hell of a journey.
Mm.
And on the Sunday afternoon, we found him. So, and it was luckily, in a way, it was two of my friends who didn't know each other, but were competent to be going into the high country with the right equipment. And only a few could go, because it's not one of those big searches where the whole village joins, because it could have been a treacherous place. It happened, it wasn't a treacherous place. And no, it wasn't an avalanche. But thanks to them finding Dave through working out places and working out what may have happened, they figured out that he'd fallen off the cliffs. And so they initially saw some tracks that didn't go anywhere. And he's like, well, if he's fallen off, it's in that way. And the only way to find out is to go down. And so they bravely took their skis down and walked. And then they found his body about 80 meters down. So he'd fallen to his death. And we found out later, and I knew it in a way. It went like this. It went like this. Mm-hmm. And so it was confirmed by, the autopsy and so forth. But interestingly, it was also something I knew. I think maybe, I don't know if it's that first night, but the night between Saturday and Sunday, I had these flashes in my dream, in my sleep. And I could feel that he'd fallen, So, yeah. I was getting myself ready, but it's when your friend calls you, it was a reassurance. I was relieved that they'd found him, because I feel for those people who never recover their loved ones' bodies. For me, it was like, he's here, we've got him. It's too late, he's dead. But I'm like, okay, but it's I get the emotions, because it's
it's a strange place to be in that waiting. And for people who haven't been in that space, I imagine it does sound quite strange to say that it's a relief, but that does mean that, you've gone from this unknown to a known, and it's almost like okay, we know this. Now I can grieve.
That's it. It's like the process can start. Mm-hmm. If you live in that uncertainty and the unknown, it's really, really difficult. If someone disappears from life and never is found, you always have, I guess, that hope. But yeah, as you said, it's that the starting point. Okay. And it's almost like, it sounds a bit cliche, but then it's the start of a new journey. It's like you can start again. Mm-hmm. And it's almost, and once again, it sounds cliche, but it's the moment my life started again. It was a rebirth, and it was just weird, a completely new chapter that started. I've always been thinking about those people who are sick for a long time before they pass, and how we sometimes feel like death is a delivery, like it's finally, they are free, and we feel that we're relieved in a way, that relief. But I also found peace in the fact that he just went like that. And so he didn't have the long months of chemotherapy, if it's cancer, or the long months of, and you just can't compare. You just can't. I didn't get to say goodbye. I didn't get to say anything. I didn't get to, and he just died like that. But at the same time, I'm like, well, I'm happy for him, bastard. He had the best death. I mean, to just go like that. He didn't even know himself. I mean, this is beautiful, and it's given me peace. It's given me peace to think, wow, dying there, doing what he wanted, and he probably didn't really realize what was happening. And sometimes, it's hard for us, but I think it's at least it's a good thing when you can at least find some relief about the deceased one, that he's at peace and that was okay, So.
And you mentioned just before about he died doing something that he loved or he enjoyed. And I know for me, I wonder if you always felt that way, because for me, one of my losses was a case of he died doing something that he loved. But for me in the early days, that was almost like, I almost found that offensive. Like, I don't care, he's still gone. And that is really a sucky thing for me to be facing. So I wonder, and I know that everyone's experience is so, so different. So I'd be curious to hear, did you feel that from the start, or has that been something that's evolved over these past 5 and
No,
5 and a bit years?
it's very interesting. And, some people are like, but why? Why did he do that? But he's got children. Why did he? And I'm like, hey, like he's always done those things. And bloke, bloody Kiwi, he would go hunting for the day, and another there he would just go for a walk, and it ended up being a massive tramp of hours, and he would just be always amazing me. And I didn't find that he was selfish or irresponsible to do that. And I think that's helped as well, is he didn't want to die, And I think if he could have chosen then and there, press A or press, he would have probably kept going and come home. But I find that it's okay that he was doing what he loved, and I'm not remorseful. And I think it has helped making it just accepting the circumstances. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So after that day, what did the next few weeks and months or even years look like for you and your family?
So it's very interesting because we were not home. I was not in my life. We were not in that kind of daily, kids go to school, blah, blah, blah. Kids were at school, but we were in France, and it was going to be just an experience for about a year or so. And we were 10 months into it. So I'm also grateful and happy that he had 10 months of awesome French life and eating beautifully. Because that's the hard thing, is like, I felt like, oh, what? I'm not even, so I was not with my family. But friends and family could come and support me. But it was really, really bizarre. And I'm just going to jump in time a little bit, but very quickly, I had the need to buy my return tickets to come home to Christchurch, and to have a date, and to say, okay, well, this was the plan. Let's carry on with the plan. And then that, I think, it gave me a vision forward. It just gave me a goal, a date. And then subsequently, I actually had a few other key things that happened. I went on with my surgery because it was planned. We had given a date. And yes, that second opinion was, yes, you should get it done. And we had one penciled in that Dave knew about, and I just needed to go on with that. And I did. And so I think quickly having, dates and things to be not necessarily looking forward to. I wasn't looking forward to being unable to walk and have to do it all, but things to aim for. What happened immediately after he passed was surprising me. I didn't behave in that kind of expected or cliche way of the mourning widow, not able to do anything with 2 children. And I guess this is maybe where my true nature stepped out. But I'm like, okay, right, action. And initially you are on adrenaline. What's going on is unfathomable. You're just going on autopilot. But very quickly on, I was like, we need to have colors. We need to have him, celebrate his life. And everybody needs to live life to the fullest. And that's kind of what came to me straight away. Is like, oh my God, why did he have to die to let us know and to remind us? We all know already, and I just wanted that to be a celebration. When we say a funeral is a celebration of someone's life, and I think it's a celebration. And I asked people to wear their brightest, mountaineering winter clothes, and we did a big walk, and we were where he started his walk from, and surrounded by mountains in the snow. And for some reason, in the whoop-whoops of France, I managed to find a huge New Zealand flag, and I'm up on the table there and waving that flag, and we danced and we sang. And it's very interesting because how I said I had these flashes at night. very quickly, in a few days after he passed, and I knew he was dead, like I had some songs, and I'm like, oh, he's just giving me, or I don't know, he or what, but that's what we need to play. And it was beautiful because a song that I hadn't thought about for a while came up to mind, and I said, we need to sing it. And it was Tutera Mai Naiwi. And because we'd sung it with our kids at home, and I'm like, right. And so next thing, I think maybe 2-3 days later, I was at the school and I was teaching all the school children to sing in Māori in that little village in the Alps. And only later did I find the meaning of the lyrics. And for me, very quickly on, I said, listen, I need you guys. And I talked to all the people, the family, the friends. I said, I need you. I can't do this alone. Let's just get together. And that's what the lyrics mean. It's, together. Let's be together, unified. And this is where our strength is. And I was like, wow, it was incredible because I felt that need to be supported and to be connected. Once again, that strong connection came back. And it was really for me that the message is like, together we can do this, And then again, and of course, and that's something we've heard and a lot of us feel is love will survive. And that's like the Aroha Nui. And so that was it. So we sang Tutera Mai, and it was really that kind of energy that came out. And I also wanted life to be as normal as possible for my children. So I was 35 and Dave was 38, and our kids were 5 and 7. So it's quite young, and they were going to school. And the day we found Dave on the Sunday, and I wanted them to go to school on a Monday. And I asked all the parents, can you all be late? Because I think we're going to be late because life is a bit, a little bit. And they did. And, we came out of the house, and I'm feeling emotions coming up that morning. And there was about a dozen parents with children. And we all walked to school because it wasn't very far. It's a small village. And life carried on. And then I wanted the celebration for Dave to be a big party where the children would feel love and the comfort of not being alone. And I think at the end of the day, when we lose someone, in whatever circumstances, we need to let ourselves be comforted. The consolation, we need to be consoled. We need to be, and let yourself be vulnerable. And I was being strong, but I also just was just fueling myself from everyone that was there, and that kept me going for quite a while. But I did cry eventually.
Yeah. And I think that I'm having images of what that celebration might have looked like in my mind, and it's just so vivid and alive. And I think that really, I don't know whether it's a Kiwi thing or whether it is a more global thing, but just this expectation of what a funeral should look like. And I think yours is a fantastic example of how we can throw out the window the idea of sitting quietly and
black, wearing black and just not talking and it's very interesting because I have a vague memory that we talked with Dave about that, and I said, hey, if I was to die or whatever, I'd want everyone to wear colors, and it's bizarre, and that, if you wanted me to talk later about how prepared you are or what makes you cope or whatever, it's interesting because we do have those little conversations, and I think it's a conversation we should have more openly with everyone, and to say, hey, if I was to die, I'd love this,
and to not wait until in that case where it's an accident, where it is too late, or where someone is sick or with a terminal illness, and in that case it's something that's you're forced to talk about, and it is definitely, well, from my experience, it's no fun at all. Whereas if you're like, just kind of in your normal life and normal routine, happen to have a conversation about it, and you never know how powerful and valuable that conversation could be.
Yeah, and if that person is really ill, you can just say, hey, that's really what you want, isn't it? But also to take the heaviness of it. We're all dying the day we're born. It's cliche. Death is a part of life, but it is. Why do we try to ignore it? And why do we not speak about it? And that's the thing as well, is like, why on children, and I was so open, and I think I really helped a lot of those kids understand that what happened is, well, Charlie and Ollie's papa just went there and he fell off a mountain, and it's a way to not scare, but to educate and teach, and my circumstances about nature, not the danger of nature, but that nature, the mountains, they're bigger, they're stronger, and we have to be really humble and to respect, and that we are not immortal. And I would love to really get that. And I think my kids grow up nowadays like this. And it's a shame that their father has to die for them to understand that. But it's like, hey, let's appreciate, because it's a gift to be alive, So.
I think that leads in really well, an opportunity to, I know there'll be some people who would love to hear more about this too, is being a parent without your other parent there, and you're grieving, you're trying to support your children through this whole process. What was that like, and what did you do? What did you find that was really helpful in your experience?
So you don't really know, and this you can't prepare for. And it's without hindsight that you can analyze and say, oh, that's what I did. And, in my opinion, is I guess I just put it aside. And I had a very tough reaction of like rejecting the fact that I didn't want to be a single mom. I said, hey, I never wanted children to raise them on my own. And it was really difficult because I kind of like didn't want to. And I needed to find myself again. And unbeknown to me, I just decided to just keep living and to just like, wow, just embrace everything. And so in a very, and we talked about it, an unexpected way, I fell in love with someone else. And that was not the plan. And it just happened. But I guess it's because that one person was very shocked and got thrown into that drama of my life, because he's one of the friends who found Dave's body, which, everything got a bit mixed up. And maybe I was attached to the fact that he was one to be with him and touched him, and he did close one of Dave's eye that was open, and I don't know what happens in those moments, but he also himself was truly concerned. And because he was slightly exterior to that family and the very close friends, I knew him from not very long before. I just found that person to talk to and to say, no, it's shit. How's it going? Not well, and my kids aren't sleeping, and I'm not liking this. I kind of needed to think of something else and to not focus on what was happening. And I guess I could be saying that I delayed my grief in a way. I think it was an unconscious way of coping, but to keep living and to move on. And as I mentioned before, I went ahead with that surgery, and that was very interesting, and it was extremely helpful, because my situation with Dave dead could not be better, could not be improved. It was just, it was just a mess. But having that surgery, having a plan to heal, and having to take steps and to do physio gave me something to focus on. And it also helped others to say, instead of how are you, which is a question really hard to ask to anyone who's going through, the loss of someone, it was like, how's your knee? And, that's better. It's better. Oh, look, I can walk. And it gave me something fixable, because you can't fix loss, but you can focus on something else. And I think it gave me that focus, and then that was really, really useful. And carrying on with life. And it's later on, it's probably couple of years later, that I really fully faced the grief, but I had time in a way to recover and to get back into the swing of things and of life. So there's nothing specific that I did apart from keep going and being self-compassion, and be kind with yourself and be kind with your pain. And I was, I guess, kind, and I just needed to be loved and to be cherished and to have fun. And I took that, I didn't just try to follow a set of rules, or there's no guidelines about how you should be grieving. And people found it really shocking, really disturbing. And I got a lot of questions, and I was judged about finding love. And I was like, what does this mean? Like, is she not? And I'm like, it's got nothing to do with the love I've got for my husband. And also, I think maybe in the month following, probably just over a month after his death, a friend of mine just said, hey, there's an outdoor concert in one of the nearby ski resorts. Do you want to go? And I was like, yes, I do. And it was like, oh, but maybe I shouldn't. I'm like, but you know what? I don't want to be miserable, like staying all my evenings and suffering and bathing in that pain. It's like, no, I want to go. I want to go dance. I want to go sing. I want to just live. And so I guess I had I don't know if it's a rejection, like a strong rejection of the suffering or the pain, but I had a bigger desire to bite into life and to connect and to live. So that's I guess what's saved me.
Yeah. And that's an incredible way to approach it. And interested to hear more about the judgment that you mentioned, whether that is about the new relationship or the way that you were grabbing hold of living and thriving, or whether you had any internal narratives around like, oh, like I'm having a good time, like I'm supposed to be grieving and mourning, like that's not the way things should be happening.
Yeah, you have a lot of self-questioning or internal kind of like, why am I not this and why am I not? But it's very interesting. There's a few things that help me cope. I remember shortly after Dave died, meeting one of our friends from the village, and he gave me a big hug. And he said to me, he's gone because he had another mission to go. And he's gone because he finished what he needed to do in this life. And it just, that moment completely opened me to the spirituality, to saying, actually, you're right, because we also often hear why are the kind souls going first? And it's like, well, because they finished their mission. Because, and when you think of Dave and his life and what we've done together, he's had a full life. We had such a packed, full, he lived an entire life in 38 years. It was cut short, but I guess he went through what his agenda was, what he had to. But that helped me. And then I've lost the track of your question.
No, I think that was a really nice place, meeting that friend who managed to open that perspective to you that David finished this mission and he was on to a next one. Was that the gateway into, or you've had the dreams and connections with Dave prior, did that open you up into exploring spirituality and life after death in a whole new way?
I guess that's been it's been, I did say, it's opened me to spirituality. And even though I was raised in a very Christian Catholic family, and there was always values, and it's actually something that my 5-year-old told me when I announced him that his dad would not come back, that we'd found his body, but he was gone. And then he said to me, yeah, but Jesus, he came back. Why won't Papa come back? And I'm like, oh gosh, I didn't know what to say or what to believe. And we still talk about that and trying to let them know. It's like, well, in a way he is back because he is here, And so I believe that there is something bigger and higher. And there's this French man who said that we are not human beings living a spiritual experience, but we are spiritual beings living a human experience. And that's a very key sentence for me, because I believe that we are here to experience what we have to. And a lot of people will say, yeah, but this is thrown at me. I never signed up for it. I didn't want this to happen. I'm a victim of it. And I'm like, I chose, I think, probably consciously, very early on, to not be a victim of my circumstances and to not define myself as, oh, I'm a widow. This is me now, Because I think that if it's happened to you, if it's there, you somewhere, somehow gave consent for it. I'm not saying we're attracting it. We could say it this way, but you consented to it. But that means there's a learning. That means there is something to do with it, and to don't sit in that grief, that pain, that sadness, and ruminate and don't let the why and the ifs. I guess for me it was like, I'm just going to be true to myself. I'm going to be, and this is again, live life to the fullest, is be vulnerable and be sad and cry and release that pain. If you feel like, it's just, don't try to be all good. And maybe we do, because it's something that probably we are taught, or we learn somehow to do, is like, oh yeah, no, how are you? Oh, good, thanks. No, I'm not good. Is
that the same? I know Kiwis are, that's definitely part of our MO, saying, yeah, we're good, or
oh yeah,
I'm busy. Is that the same in French culture?
No, I think the French is a lot more like the Latin, so a lot more to the emotions, the good and the bad, and expressive, so we it's okay, and there's no shame to not be feeling great. I think probably my culture has helped in saying that I'm really Kiwi as well. So it's good to take a bit of both. But yeah, I guess in New Zealand to be very expressive is still sometimes seen a little bit, being a tall poppy or something like that. So, and I reckon once again, it comes back to being authentic. And if you're being you, and if you're authentic, who is there to judge and to label you? So I think when you are faced with such a hard obstacle or challenge, you have to trust yourself that you can do it, that you will overcome it, but you need to choose to. When I'm saying don't stay stuck in the pain, you are ultimately the captain of your own ship, and you choose the direction. You choose where you want to go. And this is where sometimes being helped and supported is helpful, because we may need some help to get going, or what is the direction, or where's the map. And I think, again, that's where connection and not staying alone in your grief is very important.
Yeah, I say a lot that we're not designed to do this alone.
No.
And we think about so many other, I guess, big life events or transitions or initiations, the like life stages that we go through. There's always people around, like birthdays, weddings, anniversaries, births, like it's family and community coming together. And yes, that occurs at a death as well, but it's usually that support and gathering around is usually pretty short-lived. So yeah, I think it's kind of a strange balance, isn't it? Like if you might feel really alone and stuck, and you can't see that hope or that way forward, But it is about choosing, okay, well, I want this to be different. What can I do about it? And sometimes it can be really hard, but you have to go out and seek those people or that guidance that you might be craving or so desperately needing.
Yeah, and that could be the friends, the family, or I did a lot of work with a psychologist, and it has a different. There's no one size fit all. Once again, is what will be the most helpful for you, and you may explore a few avenues. And in terms of what you mentioned about sometimes the gathering and the being together is short-lived, and this is something that's really hard because like I'm probably grieving, I wouldn't say harder, but as much now as I was then. And I don't have people there every day to say, hey, but I do in a way. And I think when I talk a lot about the union, the support of others, the connection, it's about love, and if you keep finding solace in love, if you keep loving even the deceased one, you can keep loving them. You can keep speaking to them. Nobody will think you're dumb or you're crazy. You just need to keep loving and keep that love alive, and then love yourself. Don't hate yourself. Accept the feelings you're going through, and don't be too hard and judgmental. And, gosh, I'm listening to myself. I'm like, all right, listen to yourself. Yeah. It's not easy. It's not easy.
As much as we love to share about being self-compassionate, it can be one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah. And sometimes it sucks, but, it's okay.
And that's actually coming back to the acceptance you've mentioned a few times. What does that mean for you? Because I think what I know for myself and other people that I've worked with is the idea of acceptance early on can be really hard. And there's another way that some people think, it's just like a fluffy kind of thing, like accept it and move on. But, it's really not. It's more, when my experience has been more gritty and messy and definitely not pretty at all. So I'm interested to hear more from you about what acceptance means to you.
I guess you could say accept, but also trust, trust that, not that it was meant to be or that we deserved it or whatever, but trust that everything will be okay. So it's what I said, don't get stuck. Don't get stuck on the events. Don't get stuck in trying to understand, because we can't understand. I wouldn't say there's nothing to understand, but there's a lot. But it's a real human thing to want to reason, and that's really the head. And I'm like, well, feel, So I'm really big on the mind-body connection, and then having that spiritual belief helps me to say, okay, I trust that if it's happening to me, I don't like to say I can get stronger. Some people may, like it gives you stronger. And then yes, you're building resilience, but it's like there is something to gain from it. It's a learning, it's a teaching. It's hard, but there's something in it for me. And you may not know yet, so don't try to make sense of it. So I guess accepting is trying to not making sense of it. And I said at the end of the day, you will be grieving for the rest of your life. Like grief, you can't just, I've grieved, that's it. And then that's what I try to explain to people, because you have to really feel it. But grief is now a part of your life, and it will accompany you forever. And that's okay. That's okay. It's not defining who we are. It's not a skill. It's a constant reminder that we have a great life and to live, and we can. For me, it's helping me find purpose and give more meaning to my life. And yeah, it will shock some people, but eventually it becomes a blessing. And gosh, I'm going to pass you all the things that have happened. But I today have a beautiful Kiwi partner who is not the man I initially fell in love. I now have the opportunity to build something beautiful and to continue with my life, trying to give it as I said, a deep sense of purpose, and with the support of another Kiwi man. And my mission is to also really raise my kids, to try to really give them as much emotional intelligence as I can, to be empathetic, and to accept that life is not just an easy ride.
That's absolutely beautiful. And I think we'll definitely have to get you back for a part 2 to hear about.
Oh gosh, there's so much more I can share.
And I have worked with women before who have endured the death of a partner or a husband, and the whole finding love again, internally and externally, finding a lot of conflict and judgment and guilt, and can be a really interesting experience and space. So we'll definitely get you back to have a chat about that.
Definitely. I'd love to share it. It was an interesting experience to go dating and on dating apps and as a widow. So once again, it's beautiful to be able to have a little bit of hindsight and to have gone through it. And it's like everything. When you're in the tunnel, life is it's very, very hard. But just keep going. Just keep going, and don't sit down in that tunnel. Don't stay in the dark. Just look for and walk towards the light. And there is some, even if you can't see it, and once again is just ask around if you need to have a bit of help. So
yeah. And I think that leads us really nicely into your current day and how you've transformed your experience into something that you're offering to serve and help others. So I'd love to hear more and share with our audience about what you are up to now.
Yes. Well, guess what? I'm a coach. No, it's very cool to see. Like a few days ago, I looked at some diaries and old diaries that I had, and one of them probably dated 2017. Dave died in 2019. So a couple of years before his death, I had written down a few things about living life with purpose and a meaning. So I guess, that spiritual side of me and that quest for growth had begun. And I decided this year that it took me a good 5 years to try to reassemble my life. And I mean, we all got dealt with a deal COVID as well, and which kind of put everything on hold for all of us. But earlier this year, it was just clear to me that, okay, now it's the time. I have just so much to give. I have so much love. And then also, if I've gone through all of that, I don't want it to be just for me. I kind of, if it can serve others, if my hurt and if my tears can console others because of what I've learned, and if I can accompany people going through this, which you are doing yourself, Anna, and it's beautiful because it's a way for us to keep healing. And so I am not specifically guiding people through loss and grief. Absolutely, it's something I can do, but I just really feel like I want to partner with people, and I want to accompany people on their path, of self-empowerment and self-fulfillment, to try to really guide them to be aware of their strength and their self-worth, and to help them just live a life to the fullest, Just my motto, once again, that's, if I can help anyone, it would be just wonderful. And then, in a way, it's like carrying on with Dave's mission as well. He's everyone who leave us something.
They sure do. Yes.
Yep.
Amazing. So if anyone has loved your vibe and personality and infectious enthusiasm and energy and wisdom. Where can people find you?
It's all happening. It's all new to me. So I am calling my coaching business Aligned, and I will be very soon launching an Instagram page called Aligned Holistic Coaching. So at the moment is where you can find me. I'm on LinkedIn. It's my name. But you'll definitely have a lot more. And I'm just letting this develop organically. And I trust that I've got it in me that I can just help others succeed. So, yeah.
Wonderful. So we'll put all those links in the show notes so people can find you and connect with you and have a chat.
Thanks, Hannah.
Yeah. Exciting. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. So much wisdom, and yeah, we all love your energy.
Oh, thank you. Well, I've got so much. I mean, you have to stop me talking. So I'd be very happy to come and talk about, all the rest. But yeah, I think let's not keep anything to ourselves. We have all something to share, and it can help others. So it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
You're welcome. Thank you. I so can't wait for part 2.
Bring it on.
Thanks for joining me today on Rewild You. If something resonated with you or gave you a spark, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach me over at rewildyouhq.com or connect with me on Instagram at rewilyouhq. If you've been enjoying these conversations, the best way to support the podcast is to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who might need it too. Take care out there, and I'll see you in the next episode.